adenosine, IMP is converted to inosine, and GMP is converted to guanosine. Okay, so the inosine is converted to hypoxanthine, hypoxanthine to xanthine, xanthine to uric acid. Even GMP is converted to guanosine, guanosine to guanine, again guanine is converted to xanthine. Please remember the enzymes involved and also the coenzymes which are involved during these steps. And finally, these purine nucleotides are broken down to uric acid. Okay. Now the disorders of purine metabolism, as just now Ritika told us, suppose if there is excessive degradation of purines, then it will lead to accumulation of uric acid in the blood. The same uric acid goes to the tissues and it gets accumulated there in the form of uric acid crystals. Okay, that is called as tophi. Especially, we will see this tophi, that is the deposition of uric acid crystals in the joint spaces like in the great toe and all. So that is tophaceous gout. And this usually uric acid metabolism is deranged in people who take lot of protein diet, which involves non-vegetarian type of diet. So first of all, we should ask the patient to restrict protein diet because it will be rich in purines. Okay, so in this case, in of gout, we have to check for serum uric acid levels. Okay, so he's asking us what are the investigations which are done, isn't it? So that is, and also give this cycle beta. So that is, what is the name of the drug we use to control this gout? Allopurinol, isn't it? Because the allopurinol is arresting the conversion of hypoxanthine to uric acid. It is preventing the action of xanthine oxidase, which is converting xanthine to uric acid. So once uric acid production is stopped, automatically the gout will be resolved. Okay, so the allopurinol is the drug of choice. Okay, so uric acid treatment is allopurinol. These are other disorders. So we have to check for, he is asking us two investigations, right? So what are the various investigations we can take? First thing is you are checking serum uric acid. So other than that, what we can check? We can check the other enzymes in the blood. So we can check the level of xanthine oxidase. Okay, so if it is normal or increased, how is it? Okay, so these two parameters, even in case of urine also we can check for the levels of uric acid. Okay, so all these parameters we can check in case of gout. So let us see the question if we have covered everything. So 15-year-old boy, basically it doesn't occur in 15-year-old boy, though the question is designed in this way. The uric acid metabolism derangement usually occurs in elderly. Okay, so but here blood urea levels are given, serum uric acid levels are given, it shows it is raised. Okay, at the cover page end of the book we have normal range also. So you need to give the normal blood levels and also serum uric acid levels. Okay, so probable diagnosis is gout, which is very much correct. Two other blood investigations would you suggest? Better go with xanthine oxidase and serum uric acid. Then comment on serum uric acid levels and explain the cause of pain in joints. So serum uric acid levels are increased due to increased breakdown of purines. Okay, so that usually see in cancers also, usually we see in some metabolic derangements also. Okay, and the cause of pain in the joints is deposition of uric acid crystals inside the joint spaces, which will restrict the mobility of the joints. You will see big, big nodules, especially in the big toe of our foot, great toe of our foot. It will be deviated medially. So, such big uric acid crystals deposition will cause pain. So that is the reason for pain in the joints. Okay. Then biochemical explanation for the treatment. The last step I told you, xanthine oxidase is involved, isn't it, for the conversion of this last step, whatever we have just checked. So allopurinol is actually arresting the conversion of xanthine to uric acid, right? So this is the biochemical step which is being arrested by allopurinol. Hypoxanthine cannot be converted to xanthine. Xanthine cannot be converted to uric acid. Hence, uric acid production is stopped, because of which the patient is relieved of the symptoms of gout. Okay, that's how you have to write point wise, like as per the question which is designed here. Is that clear, beta? Ritika, Chabi, Imad.
Yes, ma'am.
Next question is glycine metabolism. Chavi has not attended few classes, but Imad and Ritika are quite regular. Do you remember what are the important? Tell me at least two important products which are produced from glycine.
Hmm.
Yes, but heme. I hope you are telling heme, right?
Ma'am, hemoglobin formation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hemoglobin formation. Very good. Any other thing?
Uh,
Creatine, isn't it? See here, Chavi. See, glycine is one of the amino acids, okay, which is very important, okay, and it is glycine is one among the commonest amino acid which is found in many of the protein structures, okay. So this glycine can be converted to purines, okay, which is going and giving the contribution of fourth carbon, fifth carbon, and seventh nitrogen atoms. It is going in for the conversion of glutathione. Imad, what is glutathione?
uh, glutathione.
Yes, better. Kritika, it's a biologically active peptide, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So that biologically active peptide, what does it do? Helps in
Um,
antioxidation. It kills the free radicals and it
Ma'am,
will.
glutathione peroxidase is the enzyme.
Yeah, very good. Glutathione peroxidase is an enzyme which will bring about the antioxidation reactions. Okay, that means it will neutralize the free radicals which can damage the cells.
Radicals.
Okay, then we have, it is also helping in conjugation, so of bile acids. It also helps in detoxification, as Ritika told. It is helping in heme synthesis, creatine formation. Proteins are synthesized from here: serine, oxalate, glucose, ammonia, formate. It is taking contribution in one carbon metabolism also. Okay, so that is all about glycine. Then after this, what we should know is, see, this is, I told, we have discussed this cycle previously also. This looks little not so much interesting, but see, this is the second time in the questions it has come as an essay, isn't it? So you can see the reversible type of reactions also, like glycine, it is helping in one carbon pool. Just now we have studied, isn't it? So it is helping in the formation of tetrahydrofolate. It is contributing for one carbon metabolism. So glycine can be converted to N5, N10, methylene tetrahydrofolate, and carbon dioxide and ammonium ions are released. It is a reversible reaction. Again, from carbon dioxide and ammonia, glycine can be synthesized with the help of glycine synthase. Similarly, if you just consider this step, this oxalate and formate, they combine to form glyoxalate. From here, you can see glycine can be formed. Again, glycine can be broken down to glyoxalate, oxalate, and formate. This formate is again going into one carbon metabolism. It is donating one carbon. Okay, that is one. That means this is also a reversible reaction. Everything is reversible in fact. Glycine can be converted to serine, serine can be converted to glycine. Okay, for forward reaction, one enzyme will be involved, and for the backward reaction, the other one. So threonine can be converted to glycine with the help of threonine aldolase. Okay, now the serine which is formed from glycine can be broken down to ethanolamine, which can be converted to glycocolate, again glycocolate to oxalate, oxalate. Again, it is helping in one carbon metabolism. Okay, so all these are the like steps which help in metabolism of glycine. Why it is used metabolism? We do not have two separate cycles here. We have catabolism and anabolism, everything shown in this cycle only. You are finding synthesis of glycine, you are also finding breakdown of glycine, because two sides arrows are shown in this picture, in this cycle. Okay, better. Now, in our question, I think he is asking. Glycinuria we have to discuss. Metabolism of glycine. That just know that that cycle, whichever is little different, that cycle you should learn. Synthesis is there, catabolism, both are there in that. Specialized compounds is from the arrow. First thing, whatever I have shown you, heme, one carbon metabolites, tetrahydrofolate. It goes into in the contribution of purines for so and so carbons and nitrogens and all. Those are all specialized compounds. In fact, here the applied aspect is not as, but usually when we have discussed it previously, we also talked about glycinuria, isn't it? Do you remember? You all better also give this also better. This cycle is equally important for the current answer what has been asked. Metabolism of creatine. That means so arginine and glycine is actually converted to guanidoacetate. So during this cycle, the arginine is converted to ornithine. So that means this is going into urea cycle. Guanidoacetate to creatine, creatine to creatinine, which is excreted in urine. Creatinine we generally check for the normal functioning of kidneys. We undertake one test, no, Ritika, what is the name of the test to check for the renal function?
Creatinine clearance.
Very good. Creatinine clearance test. Okay. So whether the normal amount of glycine is being broken down or whether the creatinine levels are increased in the blood. Okay, if everything is normal with kidney function or not, we can just check with this production of creatinine. Okay. So the normal levels also try to remember better. Creatine is the energy source generally which is utilized in the skeletal muscle for the production of energy. Okay, creatine, with the help of creatine kinase, it is converted to creatine phosphate, and creatine phosphate is now converted to creatinine, which is excreted in urine. Okay, so creatine is energy source, creatinine is end product. Try to be very much clear. Creatine is the source of energy which is utilized in skeletal muscle. Creatinine is the end product during creatine metabolism, which is excreted in urine, and we should know both the levels. We should know the levels of creatine and creatinine both in serum and urine, because these type of questions may be asked as separate 3 marks questions also. Okay, beta, that is. So metabolic disorders of glycine, we have to talk about glycinuria. That means the glycine is like increasing in the blood and it is filtered in the urine. It is not being metabolized properly and it is excreted in the urine. That condition is called as glycinuria. Okay. So this will lead to the formation of excessive oxalate renal stones. Okay. There is one more disorder which is called as primary hyperoxaluria, increased urinary oxalate resulting in oxalate stone. Okay, so that is, so it is an endogenous product and not due to dietary consumption of oxalate. That means from the breakdown of glycine we are getting this oxalate, and if it is getting accumulated in the blood and filtered in the urine in the kidney, it is leading to the formation of oxalate stones. Okay, these two defects you can write for glycine metabolism. Then explain the absorption, transport, storage, and dietary iron in the body. This is actually an essay question also, and it has come for the first time. It's very important. Actually, I wanted to discuss also this answer. I was waiting. Mineral metabolism, very important essay question. Better. You can open in your books at the same time. I'll display here. Ritika, if you have opened, please let me know the page number. Better.
Huh.
Because both of us are following same edition. Chavi Imad had different edition. It is.
Page number 414 now.
414, beta. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. See here. Now, iron, let us discuss as an essay answer only better. So, first of all, we know iron is very important component of hemoglobin, isn't it? That means for the transport of oxygen, it's playing a major role. So, major its functions are through compounds in which it is present. That is hemoglobin in the blood, RBC, myoglobin in the muscle. There are many enzymes which are made up of iron. That means iron is going into the composition of certain enzymes like cytochromes. And these cytochromes we came across when we were doing biological oxidation, if you remember better. We had biological oxidation, no? One answer. There we have seen cytochrome A, A1, C, C1 for the transfer of electrons, isn't it? When you check for the composition of these cytochromes, you will see it is made up of iron in its structure. Peroxidases, lysosomal enzymes, which are concerned with phagocytosis and killing of bacteria. Okay, it is also associated with our like competency of our immune system. That means it is also helping in the killing of microorganisms. Okay, then how much do we require in our daily diet? See, adult man 10 milligrams per day, menstruating women 18 milligrams, pregnant and lactating women 40 milligrams per day. So the sources are organ meats, liver, heart, kidney. These are the rich sources, and good sources are leafy vegetables, pulses, cereals, fish, apples, dried fruits, and molasses. Poor sources, milk is the poor source, but most of the students, when Viva is taken, what is the good source of iron? They tell milk. Milk is a very poor source. Milk is only a good source of calcium, not iron. Please remember. Wheat and polished rice, these are the poor sources. Okay, like any other mineral, basically whatever we eat, it is entering into our stomach, then into the intestine. There it is, actually our food is broken down into the final end products, and the absorption basically takes place in small intestines. Okay, so then we try, because sometimes these factors are also being asked better. So what are the factors affecting iron absorption? See, I think this question came sometimes, I remember. Acidity. See, acidity is there in our stomach, no? HCl is there. Ascorbic acid, that is presence of vitamin C, and cysteine. This is one of the amino acid. All these three factors will promote iron absorption. So iron deficiency anemia, iron absorption is increased to 2 to 10 times than that of normal, because our body is trying to compensate for the deficiency of iron in the body. So absorption rate will further increase if we are suffering with iron deficiency anemia. Small peptides and amino acids also favor iron uptake. So phytates and oxalates, they form some salts with the iron, and this iron will get excreted in fecal matter and also in urine. That's the reason phytate and oxalates will not allow the iron absorption. It will stop iron absorption. Then a diet with high phosphate content decreases iron absorption, while low phosphate content promotes. That means phosphate is also forming insoluble salts which will not allow the absorption of iron from the GIT. Okay, so it is impaired iron absorption. We also see in some GIT disorders like steatorrhea. Okay, steatorrhea is, what is steatorrhea, beta? If you remember, I told you
Excretion of
in,
fat.
yeah, very good. Yeah. What is the color of stool?
Stool. Normally brown
But here
due
in
to
case of,
stercobilinogen.
uh, but here in case of steatorrhea, clay colored stools are seen, colorless in fact. Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So in patients with partial or total surgical removal of stomach and intestine, iron absorption is severely impaired. First thing is we need acidity. Second thing is intestine is majorly involved the absorption of iron. Okay, so now see here, this question will be specially asked beta. Let us try to understand iron absorption and transport. So see here, this is the lumen of GAT. It can be stomach. So when we are eating iron rich food, suppose dates are very much rich, along with vitamin C, that means you have taken some lemon juice, or you have taken orange fruit. So in combination, if you have taken, that enhances iron absorption wonderfully. So food iron in presence of HCl and organic acid, it is converted to Fe plus 3 is ferric form. Always remember, in throughout this cycle, ferric is the storage form ferrous is the transport form. Okay, so in order to transport this iron to the mucosal cells of the GIT, it is now converted to ferrous form. So from the lumen of GIT, supposingly it is stomach, now it is moving into the intestinal cells. So in the intestinal cells, what is happening? See, the apoferritin is and this ferric form, both of them are like in the presence of ferroreductase, again they are converted to ferrous. So ferrous is the form which is again transported, because mucosal cells are only concerned with absorption. They are not concerned with storage. So once they are observing, where do they transport this iron? They will transport. That means the intestinal mucosal cells will transport the iron in ferrous form to the blood. And through blood, it will go to the target tissues for the purpose of storage and also into its form where it is supposed to work. For example, now in the blood, what is happening? Again, this apotransferrin and ferric form, they form transferrin. Okay, and this, see, ferrous form is now converted to ferric, and this here the enzyme acting is ceruloplasmin, a ferrooxidase. So actually, how copper is involved in iron metabolism? There was a question. So copper containing enzyme ceruloplasmin is actually required for the conversion of ferrous to ferric. Okay, again this transport form, this transferrin is moving from the blood to the tissues. Where is the iron stored? Iron is stored in the liver in the form of ferritin and hemosiderin. It's also going to bone marrow for the production of RBC, hemoglobin. It's going to the muscle for the formation of myoglobin. It is also going to the other tissues, like we have cytochromes. I just told you it takes place in the formation, like biological oxidation, isn't it? Oxidative phosphorylation. Then other tissues like non-heme iron may be present. So this is the metabolism, that is the iron transport, iron absorption and transport. This will be asked as an essay question. You should understand it thoroughly and put it in your own words. Okay, beta? So that is iron in mucosal cells, transport of iron in plasma, storage of iron in ferritin form in the liver, and also hemosiderin. Okay, so that is. So general overview of iron metabolism is not been asked ever, beta. It's for our general information. How much are we consuming? How much it is being retained in our liver, muscle, and all, and how much is excreted. Okay. So deficiency, that is quite popular. Deficiency of iron, it will cause iron deficiency anemia. We have seen in physiology also. The RBCs will be pale and they will be hypo. What is that condition? Microcytic hypochromic type of anemia. The size of RBC will become very small and they become pale. That is microcytic hypochromic type of anemia. Okay. So generally we should take care properly when the young girls, adolescent girls, they should take proper iron intake, because there is loss of blood during menstrual cycles. Pregnant ladies, there is increased demand because of the growing fetus. So proper iron should be given in the diet. Okay. So hemosiderosis is more than required if iron is getting deposited in the liver. That is also very harmful. It will generally impair the liver functions. That condition is called as hemosiderosis. Generally, we see in this Bantu tribe in South Africa, because they cook food in iron pots. Okay. So hemochromatosis is iron is directly deposited in the tissues, liver, spleen, pancreas, and skin. The color of skin also becomes very much dark, as though it is bronze pigmentation. Okay. And pancreas also may be damaged because of the deposition of iron. You call it as bronze diabetes. Okay, beta? That is. Hope you understood. Now we'll move to next question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then we have post-transcriptional modifications. I have discussed with Imad, Ritika. It will be a revision. Shall we? What are post-transcriptional modifications, beta? What is transcription basically, Imad?
Transcription is formation of mRNA from RNA from DNA.
Very good. Okay.
Transcription.
Do you remember? Yeah, that is the perfect definition. Do you remember the steps which are taking place?
Steps. I
42
don't think
plus.
so, ma'am.
Okay, okay. This Sunday, please write physiology paper 2 beta. Focusing first on
Okay,
paper
ma'am.
2s because paper 2s are paper 1s anyhow you will read many times because those are initial chapters. Paper 2 will be something like new added chapters. No? That's fine. Okay, see here beta. As Imad said, first of all, like from the DNA, the RNA which is formed, which that is what is called as transcription. Okay, shall we see here? We have three different polymerases like polymerase RNA polymerase 1, RNA polymerase 2, and RNA polymerase 3. Okay, then polymerase 1 is helping in the formation of rRNA, 2 for mRNA, and 3 for tRNA. Okay, so these polymerases, once they form these respective RNAs, what is the function of RNA? Ritika, what does these RNA do? What do these RNAs? What is the function?
It helps in the formation of protein.
Very good, very good. But it helps in the formation of proteins, protein synthesis. Okay, that is the purpose. So that means it has to come out. So whatever RNA which is synthesized from the nucleus into the cytoplasm which has entered, that is very much in crude form. It has to be processed and it has to be made into a like refined form. So in order to form a refined type of RNA, it undergoes many steps. So those steps are nothing but post transcriptional modifications. The first step which takes place is end modification. So whatever mRNA is coming from the nucleus into the cytoplasm is quite big with so many things which are not required in its structure, some functional groups which are not required, or some bonds which are not required, they all has to be sorted out. So for the first step you have is end modification. That means suppose this is 1 and 3 prime end, the other is 5 prime end, two ends are there. So at 5 prime end it will be leading to capping with the 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate linkage. Okay, so here 7 methyl guanosine, the methyl group is donated by SAM, S adenosyl methionine. Okay, then so this cap is required for translation. Besides, it stabilizes the structure of RNA, mRNA. Okay, that is first step. You have end modification. 5 end is modified. Then we have poly-A tail. See, as those sperms are floating in the female reproductive system to reach ampulla fallopian tube, similarly, this mRNA, it has to get transported from the nucleus into the cytoplasm, for which there is a tail. A large number of eukaryotic mRNAs possess an adenine nucleotide chain at three ends. This poly-A tail as such is not produced during transcription. It is actually later added so as to promote the movement of mRNA from the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Okay, now if you just look at this structure beta, this is crude mRNA. So in this mRNA you have exon, intron, exon. So exons are the pieces of mRNA which are coding for amino acids. That means it will have AUG, GUG, CUG. We know that is the genetic code which can code for one amino acid. But there are also areas which are not coding for anything, which are called as introns. So with the help of SNRPs, where ATP is converted to ADP and high energy phosphate, this intron removal is taking place. Introns are removed and exon will get binded up. Something like ligase. Excision of intron and exons, they patch up. Okay, so this is one more step beta, introns and their removal. You draw this and you just put it in your own words. Okay, then the other things which are taking place are cutting into pieces and chemical modifications. That means new chemical groups are being added to make to increase the stability of mRNA. Okay, that is, so that is all about this beta. Then now see here, this picture also I have explained you previously if you remember. This is the chromosome. And the place where the transcription is going to take place is determined by what, beta? Do you remember Tata box, Huggins box? I told you. RNA polymerases will identify those cat box and Hogness box and Tata boxes, and they just go and bind there only, so that that particular area of the DNA is going to be transcribed. So suppose these are the cluster of genes and this area has been selected and this area has been read and it is now converted to a crude form of mRNA. Okay, with so many exons and introns. We know introns are being removed, only these pink areas exons have to